I would like to share with you another one of my manifestation stories because I've used manifestation, law of attraction in some shape or form, and imagination to get some amazing things. And what happened to me was in my late 30s, I started to realise that I was manifesting everything. So the things that weren't good, I was manifesting because that's how I envisaged myself. It was kind of like my life story about myself. Like I would not be successful with money because I did crappy at school. But on the other hand, I could always find girlfriends easily because I had a belief that I was charming and good looking and maybe funny, things like that. So I was kind of like, just had that belief inside me that I could do okay when I was chatting girls up or whatever. So I realised that I was manifesting good and manifesting bad in both directions. Might be worth adding that I wasn't very good at keeping girlfriends because I had a belief about myself and about relationships that they were hard work and it was really difficult. Just like childhood stuff that I believed to be true. So I got really kind of desperate about my life in my mid-30s. I was alcoholic, I was gambling loads, overweight, wanted to change my job. I actually quite enjoyed my job but hated the company I worked for, but you know, I was kind of depressed about that. And in that point of desperation, I'd looked for so many ways to try and change my life. And one avenue I ended up going down was law of attraction. And there is some real trashy stuff in there that's kind of preying on people in the position I was in. And the other was I got some really good mentors and coaches and some that didn't really work out for me. And I'm not blaming them for that. That might have just been a relationship thing. But yeah, so one of the best, maybe law of attraction coaches is Neville Goddard. In fact, way better than anyone else. So if that's something that you've found really interesting, but you can't really seem to manifest what it is you want, definitely go down the track of Neville Goddard. And also, I'm going to say things about what really worked for me in the hope that that will help you as well. I'll give you some clarity. And I know when I was in this position, I was always looking for real life examples. So I want to share some of my real life examples. And the one I'm going to talk about today is how I manifested my own martial arts school. So I became a martial arts instructor and got a martial arts school in the most bizarre circumstances, as I'll tell you now. And it was all through what I'd learned from law of attraction and manifesting. So let's get into the story. So I did some martial arts when I was a teenager, and then in my mid-30s I got back into martial arts and started training Taekwondo. And I did it, actually how long I did it for isn't relevant. I was learning it and I was getting on well with my instructor, great guy. And I kind of remember asking him, you know, what is the procedure for becoming an instructor, because I would love to do this. And something that happened to me was I was like, why wasn't I told this when I was younger? Because I would have embraced being a martial arts instructor or some sort of sports teacher, not in a school, although I nearly did that actually. I went to college and did that, but I hated it. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be a school teacher. But you know, to have your own school of martial arts, like when I saw my daughter going to dance classes, I was like, oh, you know, that's another, oh, I couldn't have done that, but another opportunity that maybe people aren't told about, that love dance or love martial arts or love sports, but aren't told that, okay, if it's a sport that you love, but you're not actually brilliant at it, you could still become good enough to be an instructor and make a living out of it. And so you're making a living out of your passion. Anyway, I asked him what the procedure was, and it turned out that it was just going to be years and years and years before I could get there. And I was like, okay, that is still possible. I would still like to do that, but maybe something could change. So this is like manifestation, law of attracting 101. You have to imagine that it's already done and act as much as you can without completely faking it, that you are the person that you want to be. So I, in that case, had to embody and act like I'm already an instructor, like I'm already that person who's got his own martial arts school. Now, I'm not going to go around like telling him how to run his school and stuff like that, but I'm doing as much as I can realistically in the real world to embody being an instructor. Now, what did that mean for me? So the school I was at had 3 classes. It was the children's class, then the main belts class, like adults and, you know, like teenagers if they wanted to, but so white belt beginners all the way up to the one below black belt, which was red belt in Taekwondo, and then the black belts class. So there was 3 classes, one after the other. I think the kids one was shorter, like 40 minutes maybe, and then the next 2 were 1 hour. So once I'd got up a few belts in the Taekwondo, I offered to help in the children's class. So what I would do is help the beginner children at first start learning their first form or their first pattern. So that's just like a sequence of moves, learning different positions or different punches just on your own, and it's called a form or a pattern. So I was embodying as much as I could being an instructor. I was teaching the kids. Then I would help out my instructor. One of the best things that ever happened to me was when he gave me, he used to have a Christmas party every year, and there'd be all awards given out for all different things and people who'd got, you know, new belts and all sorts of things. And he gave me the Student of the Year award. And that was because I was always helping out. I would stay behind and clear the kit away. I would help him load his car up. I would help him set up at the start. Anyone that was new, I would be as welcoming to them as I could. And I was acting as kind of as if it was my school, but without treading on his feet. I was helping him out. So I went from helping the children to, as I kept moving up the belts myself, being able to teach them everything that they did in the kids' class. When we went to tournaments, I would look after somebody who was newer or the children, you know, make sure they were comfortable. Then when I got a bit better, I would start helping new people in the adults class, welcoming beginners, showing them their first patterns and stuff like that. So I kept embodying the feeling, position as if I'm an instructor, and just trying to help people, trying to teach people, trying to make them feel comfortable, helping them with the admin. I even was making videos for people who had inquired about coming to a class, showing them where to park. So just to make it as easy as possible, because I remember when I first joined, and whenever I join anything like that, I'm kind of a bit nervous about where to go. You know, I would show people where the changing rooms are, where the toilets are, all stuff like that. So I was embodying what it'd be like if I had my own school. And then something kind of weird started happening. So my daughter had started training, and she started going to Rainbows, which is the younger version of Brownies. And it was on the same night as the class, as the children's class. So the children's class was on a Thursday, I think it was Thursday night, I can't remember now, Thursday night and a Sunday night. So the Thursday night class she couldn't really go to because she'd started doing Rainbows. And then the other problem was, the other class that we went to was on a Sunday night, and she was sort of 5 and going to school, and then my son was like getting up to 2 or 3 then. And Sunday night was becoming a bit awkward, because Sunday night, when you've got young kids, is the night you're sort of getting everything ready. You've had your Sunday, you know, your Sunday roast or whatever, and you're getting the kids ready for bed kind of thing. And it was kind of becoming a bit awkward to get to Sunday night classes with my daughter. If it was just me, it would have been much easier. So it was becoming a bit of a problem. So we said that we'd look for another school. Now, I didn't want to do Taekwondo with another instructor. It kind of felt like I was being unfaithful to my instructor. It was like really weird, and I didn't want to do that. So I said to my daughter, shall we have a look at another martial art? And she was like, yeah. She was only like 5 at the time, I think 6 maybe. So we went online, went on YouTube and started looking for all different martial arts were available. And of course, most of the videos that came up were Bruce Lee type stuff, or Bruce Lee stuff. So there was a lot of Kung Fu, Wing Chun mainly, and Jeet Kune Do, which was the stuff Bruce Lee did, and videos about that. So we were like, she was like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do what Bruce Lee does. So we looked for Wing Chun, and it's really hard to find because it's quite a traditional martial art. There's not many schools. It's not like Taekwondo, Karate and Judo and that sort of thing. There's not as many schools in the UK, but we found one in Coventry. So we said we'd go and try it. We got in touch with them. We went and tried it. It was a very small school, hardly any students there at all. And it was kind of being run in a caretaker type way. It hadn't got an instructor in place. I think somebody had not long moved away, and somebody from another area was just looking after the school. And so we started training there. We were enjoying it. We were like complete beginners. Obviously, I was kind of picking it up really easily because of the martial arts experience I'd got. And my daughter was loving it. And as my son got a bit older, he joined as well. And a guy took over the school. So somebody who was like 12th grade, which is equivalent to black belt, he took over the school and started running it. So we were just there learning under him. I was doing as much as I could again to help. I was like showing people, helping, welcoming people into the room. If the instructor went out to talk to people, new people, I would like try and run the classes, whatever. And I was always looking after the newbies and helping out in the kids class. In fact, I started taking the kids class for him sometimes. And then what happened was, and it's kind of an unfortunate story, perhaps I shouldn't share too much of it, but things happened with the instructor's family, and I can't really say too much about it, but he ended up that he couldn't run the school anymore because he had to look after his children. So then the guy who was running the whole of the UK operation came to the school. Obviously, he was worried about the school closing down, and he started asking me, was I interested in becoming an instructor and taking it over? And I was like, yeah, but I can't remember what I was then. Like, I was like halfway to the 12th grade black belt sort of area, maybe a bit past that. And I was like, yeah, I'm really interested. And so that he sort of tried to get me on a program that would help me become an instructor, and I could actually start running the classes as long as everyone was below me. And he was trying to fast track me. But the problem was he was running his classes down in London, and it was going to be a real problem for me to get there and to boost my training up so I could fast track myself up to grade 12 and to the instructor level. And this was the guy who ran the UK organisation, but not the man who owned the whole organisation, who lived in Spain at the time. Anyway, there was a bit of a falling out, not so much of a falling out, but a disagreement between those two, and they ended up going separate ways. So the guy who was running the UK actually left the organisation and went and set up his own thing. And the guy who lived in Spain, what he started doing was coming over to the UK once a month and doing 2 or 3 day like masterclasses down in Oxford. Now, there was something else bizarre about that, because Oxford's much nearer to me than London, like way nearer. And the other weird thing about that was, like, where I live had a station, a railway station, like years ago, that closed probably 40 years ago. And it reopened just in time for when the guy who owned the organisation opened these classes up in Oxford, and it was like almost a direct train. It was like less than an hour to get there, really easy to get there. All the time I was keeping this law of attraction stuff going on, and I was like, already like, this is bizarre how seems to be coming into place. Really bizarre. But I'd seen it before in other things, so I wasn't like totally shocked, but I was just like looking at the, what do they call it, serendipity of it all. So then I was going down to Oxford, I think it was once a month, doing these 2 or 3 day classes. I was mainly doing 2 because I couldn't get the Fridays off work very often, but I did go to some. And I was fast tracking my way up to instructor. Then what happened was, so the school I was going to and started sort of caretaking was in Coventry. Now I worked in Birmingham, and it was a bit of a trek for me to get from Birmingham to Coventry and then Coventry to back home. Now they used to have a school in Solihull, which is sort of halfway on my way home from work. And the guy who owned the organisation and someone else there was like, why don't we resurrect the Solihull school as well? And because I was really keen on that, because it'd been much easier for me. So not only did I was caretaking this school in Coventry, I now had the ability to open up a new school, and it was going to be just for beginner students, because I was like getting up to 9th grade or whatever. And because it was beginners, I knew all the stuff. It was easy for me to coach them. And the other thing was, I was so passionate about martial arts. I loved it so much that I actually found it quite easy to sign up new people, because when people came and had a trial lesson, they could just see it in me that I was passionate about it, that I loved doing it. I'd be totally honest. I wasn't trying to sell them anything. I was like, come again, have another trial lesson if you want. I didn't rely on it for income at the time because I'd got my main job. So in no time at all, I'd got a brand new school in Solihull, which I built up to about 40 students quite quickly with the children's class and the beginners class. The school in Coventry, which I actually was willing to let go anyway, because it was a bit of a pain getting over there. And I was starting to make quite a nice income from this. And it was just all going really well. And actually, in the organisation, I think I had one of the 5 biggest schools in the country in no time at all. And it was all because I was passionate about it. It was all because I was attracting it, because I saw myself as an instructor. I saw myself as enjoying teaching people. I sort of envisaged the people that I was teaching, that they loved training with me. I especially love teaching children. I've always loved doing that anyway. And in no time at all, I'd got maybe even the 3rd or 2nd biggest school in the country in this like small organisation, because as I say, Wing Chun is small. So that's one story of how I built that up. Of course, then lockdowns came and stuff and kind of closed all that down. And I actually moved on to other stuff. So I do my manifestation coaching, my weight loss coaching, my addiction coaching, stuff like that. So it's kind of expanded into all these different sorts of coaching, because that's what I wanted to do. But that is just one of a few stories. Another story I'm going to share with you later is about my property portfolio and how I became a landlord, and I've got now a company that owns properties that we let out. But yeah, I think it's really helpful to help people see that if you can get this mindset of it's already done, you're embodying who you're going to become. One good example is, I know somebody who became a YouTuber. And in fact, that's kind of what I'm doing now. Although, do I want to become a YouTuber? No, but I want to have a YouTube channel that I give stuff to. But this guy, he just decided to become a YouTuber. Now, a lot of people, when they do that, they think about, I'm not a YouTuber. Being a YouTuber is some way off in the distance. And they start thinking about what they've got to learn, what they've got to do with camera setups. Like, I'm just using my phone turnaround here. But they're like, what have I got to do with camera setups? They're very concerned about how many viewers they get. I'm not going to care, not too bothered if anyone watches this. But if you are watching it, please press like and subscribe, and you can hear all this sort of stuff. And they always put time and space into it. So I'm here now. I'm not a YouTuber, and being a YouTuber is somewhere off in the distance. What this guy did, and I learned a bit from him, was he just considered himself a YouTuber already. And he was like, I make a YouTube video every day. And all he did was just start making videos, talking about stuff he knows. And he talked about all sorts of different stuff. He hadn't chosen a niche or anything, just talked about stuff that he knew a little bit about. I think he was mostly talking about habits and stuff like that. And he gradually built up. He got well over 1 million followers, subscribers. But he considered himself a YouTuber from day one, even though he did nothing. I think his story even goes that his first YouTube video, he didn't even know how to make the title and stuff like that. So it just was like video 1, day 1, or something like that. Didn't even say what he was going to talk about. So there's no like making thumbnails and all that sort of stuff. He just considered himself a YouTuber. Now he's got well over 1 million followers. That's the sort of thing I'm talking about. That's the sort of thing you can do. So hit like, hit subscribe, follow. I'll share my story about the property as well, because that's a really good one. And I'll tell you all about how I get this to work, how it keeps me motivated. The other one is that I've become a runner. Used to hate running, but I've run something like 11 half marathons now, using the same stuff. Lost my weight using the same stuff. Got sober. I'll be on the 17th of May. It'll be 5 years sober, and I was an alcoholic, using the same stuff. You can do it too. Keep going.